We're also hearing the haunting 911 calls after a TikTok influencer was shot.
Police say her boyfriend made the desperate plea for help after he allegedly pulled the trigger.
The sun had already slipped below the horizon in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, when the phone rang inside the Broward County Emergency Dispatch Center. On the other end of the line was a man struggling to breathe through panic, his voice cracking as he pleaded for help. He kept repeating the same thing over and over again.
Stay on the phone with me, okay?
Yes, hello.
This is 911.
Hello.
This is
Get here, hurry up and get here. Who's calling me? Hurry up and get here.
Stay on the line with me. I need you to stay on the line with me, okay?
Yes, I don't know the address, bro. Just check. Just check, please.
Okay, tell me exactly what happened.
He couldn't give a clear address. He couldn't slow down enough to answer questions. And in the background, faint but unmistakable, some sounds didn't belong in an ordinary call for help. Low moans, pain, someone fighting to stay conscious. To the dispatcher, this sounded like desperation. To responding deputies, it looked like chaos. But to investigators, what would later emerge was something far darker. Because the man begging for help was not a witness, but the shooter. And what he didn't realize, what would ultimately dismantle his story, was that a Tesla car parked just a few houses away had been watching everything.
Calvin and Nicole, we're learning a lot of new details here at the 9 o'clock hour. Friends of this victim tell me that she and the suspect have been in a relationship for a couple of years.
To the internet, she was known as Girl Lala, a TikTok influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers. A young transgender woman whose content was bright, expressive, and unapologetically visible in a world that often makes people like her invisible. Her videos were filled with humor, confidence, and style, especially her wigs, which became part of her signature. To her audience, she wasn't just entertaining, she was relatable. She was someone living openly, loudly, and authentically. But behind the camera, behind the filters and comments and likes, her real name was Maurice Harrison, a 21 years old who was taken away in her prime by the very man she trusted so much. And like so many people whose lives appear glossy online, what her followers didn't always see was the instability waiting just off frame. The relationship that would slowly become the most dangerous part of her life.
Former college football player, now inmate here at the Broward County Main Jail, charged with first-degree murder, accused of killing his girlfriend. And those that knew the couple tell me that they had a tumultuous relationship.
For nearly 3 years, Girl Lala had been involved in an on-again, off-again relationship with Shinoid White Jr., a former college football player who once attended Bethune-Cookman University. He was charismatic, physically imposing, and deeply volatile. On social media, White spoke openly about dating transgender women, framing himself as confident and self-aware. But confidence can hide control, and attraction does not mean safety. Behind the scenes, friends and loved ones would later describe the relationship as tumultuous, marked by arguments, emotional swings, and violence that seemed to escalate rather than disappear. And the signs weren't subtle. They arrived in fragments, scattered across time like warnings nobody wanted to fully assemble. Heated confrontations followed periods of reconciliation, each reunion carrying promises of change that dissolved under pressure. Apologies arrived quickly, often wrapped in grand gestures, but accountability never stayed long. What looked like passion from a distance felt like instability up close, unpredictable and exhausting. Those closest to Lala noticed shifts that felt unsettling. Laughter became cautious, confidence dulled into vigilance. Plans were altered to avoid conflict. Conversations shortened to prevent escalation. The relationship demanded constant emotional negotiation, as though peace required endless compromise from only one side. Each disagreement carried an undercurrent of fear, even when voices stayed low. White's public persona contrasted sharply with private behavior. Online, he projected openness, strength, and self-assurance. Offline, moods shifted without warning. Arguments could ignite over trivial moments, then spiral into something heavier, something harder to diffuse. What began as verbal hostility often pushed toward physical intimidation, blurring boundaries that should never be crossed. Friends urged distance. The family expressed concern. Still, separation proved difficult. The cycle of attachment and rupture created its own gravity, pulling Lala back during calmer stretches, convincing her that improvement remained possible. Hope lingered stubbornly, even when evidence suggested otherwise. Each return felt like a gamble weighted against her. Over time, volatility intensified rather than eased. Tension lingered even during quiet moments, like a storm hovering just beyond sight. The relationship no longer felt uncertain, it felt dangerous. Patterns repeated with increasing frequency, leaving less room for denial. What once appeared complicated now looked clearly harmful. Looking back, those who cared about Lala recognized how long she had been navigating survival rather than partnership. The warning signs had been present early, growing louder with every cycle. Charisma masked instability. Public confidence obscured private aggression. And what was framed as love slowly revealed itself as something far darker, built on imbalance, fear, and control, rather than mutual care.
They had a history of fighting and arguing. These same friends also tell me that they turned in what will likely be a key piece of evidence to investigators. It's video from a Tesla door camera that shows the final argument between the two and the shooting.
There were videos, screenshots, moments that in hindsight read like alarms screaming for attention. In one clip, girl Lala appeared with a visible bite mark on her body. Instead of concern, the moment was brushed off with laughter, even justification. Of course, when my girlfriend made me mad, I had to bite her. In another moment, she was hiding inside a McDonald's, shaken, explaining to her audience that she needed space, that something wasn't right. The words weren't always explicit, but the fear was visible. The tension was undeniable. Like many victims of intimate partner violence, girl Lala didn't leave. Not fully, not for good. There were breakups, there were reconciliations. There was hope that love might be enough to fix what was clearly broken. It wasn't. From that instant forward, the case stopped being about confusion and started becoming about choices. What the camera captured was not panic spiraling out of control, but a sequence of movements that appeared measured. White does not stumble. He does not freeze. He does not collapse in shock. His steps are steady. His posture is upright. His focus is fixed. Investigators would later emphasize this detail, and in moments of genuine accident, people often act erratically. They shout, they flee, they hesitate. What unfolds here is different. White repositions himself, manages the situation, and physically manipulates the scene. That distinction matters. The Tesla recording does not capture sound, but it does not need to. The absence of audio removes excuses. There is no screaming heard, no frantic gestures visible, no sign of immediate desperation. What remains is visual evidence alone, stripped of interpretation, showing behavior rather than explanation. After forcing girl Lala back inside the vehicle, White closes the door. Seconds pass. The car remains still. No emergency call is made. No neighbor is alerted. No attempt to flag down help occurs. Time stretches, and with it, the consequences deepen. When authorities eventually arrive, the narrative presented to them is one of disorder. But the footage introduces a contradiction that cannot be ignored. Because accidents do not usually involve concealment. Panic does not typically result in control over another person's body. Prosecutors would later describe that moment as pivotal, not because of the weapon alone, but because of what followed the discharge. The handling of girl Lala's body, the decision to move her rather than assist her, the delay in seeking aid, all of it reshapes the timeline.
Louis and Christy, that 911 call is frantic. It is urgent. You can sense the desperation. And deputies arrested 25-year-old Shanoid White. He is charged with first-degree murder and remains locked up here at the Broward County Main Jail. And authorities say not only did he kill his girlfriend, but he's the one that alerted them to the crime.
For girl Lala, there was no second chance within that car. Whatever hope existed depended on immediate action. And that is why the Tesla matters. Because it does not argue, it does not speculate, it simply shows what happened when no one believed they were being watched. In the end, it is not the argument that defines this case. It is not even the gun. It is the response afterward, the choices made when everything was already broken, that reframes the story entirely. Moments later, White dials 911. The call is frantic. His voice shakes. He pleads for responders to hurry. He struggles to give an address. The dispatcher urges him to stay on the line, to slow down, to explain what happened. In the background, the sounds continue. By the time deputies arrive, White flags them down himself. Girl Lala is rushed to Broward Health Medical Center. Doctors fight to save her. They lose. Girl Lala is pronounced dead at the hospital. She is 21 years old. White is taken into custody. Investigators begin piecing together the timeline, the Tesla footage, the 911 call, witness statements, and then another layer emerges: his past. In November of 2022, White had been arrested for domestic violence involving a different victim. Court records show a history of aggression, a pattern. This time, prosecutors don't hesitate. Shanoid White Jr. is charged with first-degree murder with a firearm. Bond is denied. But beyond the paperwork, the evidence, the chilling footage, there is a human story that refuses to be ignored. Friends describe Lala as vibrant, ambitious, a presence that drew warmth from any room. She had plans, dreams, future sketched in quiet notebooks and whispered conversations. And yet all of it ended abruptly, leaving behind grief that is both palpable and uncontainable. Every person involved, every neighbor who glanced at the car that night, every dispatcher who listened in real time, carries a fragment of that tragedy. They become secondary witnesses, haunted by the immediacy of what they could neither prevent nor fully comprehend. The Tesla's recordings, the 911 audio, and White's history form a triangle of fact, a geometric certainty cutting through speculation. These elements will shape courtroom arguments, influence jurors, and define public understanding. Yet, even with the law on the side of justice, the true magnitude of loss extends far beyond legal proceedings. Families grieve in ways numbers cannot capture. Communities ask questions that answers cannot satisfy, and society once again confronts the fragility of life in moments when seconds matter most. This case is more than legal definitions or police reports. It is a reminder of consequences, of choices made in heat, of moments lost forever. Girl Lala's life, though tragically brief, leaves a narrative impossible to ignore. And the question remains, how do we prevent the next seconds from slipping in silence, unseen, unrecorded, and irreversible?
And sadly, the victim's family has faced tragedy and heartache before. Last August, girl Lala's brother, Marion Harrison, was shot and killed. As far as White is concerned, again, he is facing a first-degree murder charge. He did appear in bond court over the weekend where he was denied bond.
The news spreads quickly across social media. Girl Lala's followers are devastated. The trans community is shaken but not surprised. Advocacy organizations point to the same statistics they've been repeating for years. Most fatal attacks against transgender women are committed by someone they know. Most involve firearms. and Black trans women are disproportionately affected. This wasn't random violence, this was intimate violence. And it followed a pattern the world has seen too many times before. Across timelines, feeds, and stories, the story sparks an outpouring of grief, anger, and urgent demands for accountability. Friends and admirers share memories, hashtags trend, and virtual vigils are organized, but the pain is palpable, almost tangible. Each post, each shared photo is a reminder of both a life lost and a system that repeatedly fails to safeguard vulnerable individuals. For many, the response is deeply personal. It is impossible to scroll past without feeling the weight of fear and frustration. Beyond online spaces, local communities gather to mourn, lighting candles, holding hands, and speaking names aloud, refusing to let Lala's life fade into silence. Experts and activists highlight that these tragedies are rarely isolated incidents. They are symptoms of structural inequality, compounded prejudice, and societal indifference. Schools, workplaces, and neighborhoods often provide little protection, leaving targets exposed to escalating threats. The patterns repeat relentlessly. Harassment morphs into assault. Assault escalates into deadly confrontation. Each time the headlines shock briefly, then fade, while survivors, friends, and families live with lasting trauma. The disproportionate impact on Black trans women underscores layers of intersectional oppression, reminding the public that identity can be a fatal factor in the eyes of perpetrators. It is a cycle that demands urgent attention, not empty condolences. Policymakers, law enforcement, and society at large are called upon to recognize the warning signs, implement protective measures, and confront cultural attitudes that normalize violence. Lala's story is tragic, but it also stands as a call to action. Awareness alone is insufficient. Lives depend on meaningful, sustained change.
Sadly, this is not the first time that this family has dealt with a tragedy from gun violence. Just a little over a year ago, the victim's brother was also shot and killed. Meanwhile, White Jr. remains here.
Days later, loved ones gather for a vigil. Candles flicker, voices crack, as friends speak about her kindness, her joy, her desire to be seen and loved for who she was. They plead for her death not to be reduced to a headline or forgotten once the news cycle moves on. But even in death, girl Lala is denied peace. Her father publicly objects to her funeral arrangements, refusing to attend if she is presented as a woman. He insists on remembering the child he knew, not the woman she became. The statement ignites outrage online. Her mother and other relatives push back, saying, "Girl Lala lived her truth fully and deserved to be honored that way in death." The argument becomes another painful chapter, one that underscores how even after violence, trans women are forced to fight for dignity. This case is not just about a murder, it's about the warning signs we ignore, the violence we excuse, the relationships we romanticize. It's about a 911 call that sounded like desperation, but may have been guilt, and a camera that never blinked when the truth tried to hide. Girl Lala wanted to be seen. In the end, the world saw everything, so the question remains, how many signs do we overlook before it's too late? If this made you pause, like the video, subscribe for more investigative stories, and comment with your thoughts. Engagement keeps these stories seen and remembered.